Dr. Maury on Uncivilized Vitality, another book recommendation this week. And I'm also going to do a single book in this video. I'm going to recommend you pick up a textbook of, this is called The Human Past. This is edited by Chris, I believe his name is Scarre. I've never actually heard it pronounced. Chris Scarre comes from Thames and Hudson. This was published in 2009. This is the second edition. The first edition, I believe, was in 2005. I really like textbooks because you can get them super cheap. And good textbook or a quality line of textbook will keep up publishing new editions with, sometimes it's just nonsense just to sell new books to college students the next year. But it used to be that the textbooks would be updated every few years as new information become available and science worked the way it was supposed to. Even the soft sciences, they got new information with new relevance, and they would change or retract or amend things that they had in earlier textbooks. For instance, I collect, let me see if I got one. Yeah, so here's the 26th edition of Gray's Anatomy. So I collect older editions of, well, all the editions of Gray's Anatomy. It's really neat to look back on, there's a picture of Dr. Gray right there, to look back on the earlier editions of Gray's Anatomy. This is the 26th edition. This was published in, reprinted in 1955. So this edition was in 1954. Started to get some color in here. Gray's Anatomy is up into the 40s or even the early 50th edition. Goes all the way back over 100 years. Great anatomy book. So as the different editions go, I have more at home. Just had this one here. But as editions and textbooks come out, it used to be you could keep up on the editions and stay current with the newest and latest in science. Now I think they just rearrange the pictures and change the font and stuff just to get college students to buy new editions. I think that's even more accurate and true with anatomy books. As someone who teaches anatomy at the university level, I do see that to be the case. A lot of times the books, I mean, the lower lobe of the right lung is the lower lobe of the right lung. There's not much new information. So anyway, getting off track here. So let's get back to this textbook. This is The Human Past, and this is a great textbook because you can get it on Amazon or half.com or any of those used textbook sites for like $4. So once the new edition comes out, the older editions, while not much farther behind in information, are super easy to get a hold of. Okay? A lot of times I'll recommend to my students in current classes that they buy a previous edition of a book, because instead of spending $190 on a textbook, you can get the previous edition that just was used the last year or two semesters ago for like $4. So sometimes that's a problem, but this book in particular, The Human Past, why I would recommend you to get something like this: World Prehistory and the Development of Human Society. Let's flip open here. You know, lots of illustrations. All right, so basically we're going to start out. You have a section with the introduction, the study of human past. Part 1, the evolution of humanity. 6 million to 11,500 years ago, African origins, the hominin dispersals in the old world, the rise of modern humans. After that, we go into after the Ice Age. It goes from foragers to complex societies, Eastern Asian agriculture and its impact, the Holocene Australia, the Pacific Basin. We go all the way up through the Holocene period, the Mediterranean, Southeast Asia, from early villages to Buddhism, Mesoamerican civilization. What I think is, and here's some more expanded contents, what I think is interesting about a textbook like this and why I think it's appropriate is not because it's correct, necessarily. But if you're going to study the past and pre-civilized human contributions or kind of what led us to civilization and why we're in the straits we're in, maybe where we went wrong, you need to have somewhere to start. And a generally accepted textbook like this talks about the generally approved or accepted origins of human civilization, from so-called simple societies to the more complex, you know, pre-civilized to civilized. And it definitely has a bias. It takes the the point of view that progress is always good. So the more progress, the better. And we know, at least Uncivilized, we know that that's not true, because 100 years ago, we might not have had every home with running water and electricity and cell phones and the internet, but we also weren't all fat and sick and, frankly, not as sharp as we are now. So something went wrong. So getting a good textbook, an anthropological textbook that outlines the official origin of human beings and how we developed into society, gives you a framework from which to unlearn or supplement some of this information. Like, for instance, the first section of this book is a study of the human past, right? Our African origins and hominin dispersals in the old world, rise of modern humans. Well, we know that more than likely, given all the evidence that we have thus far, the earliest record of human beings was on the continent of Africa. So we do have African origins. As far as hominin dispersal goes, these are just theories. This is our best guess. We don't know. Did the Native Americans cross the Bering land bridge between Russia and Alaska and come down? Did they paddle along in canoes? We don't know. Everybody's got different theories. And the best thing you can do is read the different theories and kind of come to an understanding. You could spend 4 years in college studying anthropology, social sciences like I did in undergrad to get a good grasp of it. Or you can start with a textbook and then sort of use that as a framework to learn or unlearn other bits of information. So as a frame, I suggest you get yourself a nice cheap textbook. This one I really like because it's just got great references. It's got a lot of cool pictures, and it gets a lot of it right because it leaves a lot of wiggle room in here. Like the editor will say things like, when they get to the Clovis Point dispersal in Southwest America, at first they thought, well, the Native Americans had only been in North America for like the last 3,000 years, and now we know, and they even mention in the book, but it's possible that Native Americans were here up to 14,000 years ago, prior to the last ice age ending. So there's some, he leaves room for some interpretation and new evidence. So I do like this one. The Human Past, Chris Scarre by Thames and Hudson. This came out in 2009, second edition. I believe there's a third and fourth edition out now, but go for the cheaper ones. Give yourself a nice framework with which to discuss with others the pre-civilized origins of humanity and civilization and how those things may have gone. And then you can get out into like some of Daniel Lieberman's books, or I'll recommend some other books that you can use to supplement this. But this is a good way to start with a framework of how the human story, so that you can learn and amend other information as you go. So check that one out, and then I'll give you another bunch of books next week to look through.